It was a bright, sunny Saturday afternoon in Pinewood Grove. That's the little neighborhood where I lived. It was a quiet place, the kind where kids ran around playing tag outside, and every lawn looked perfect, like someone trimmed it with scissors. The houses were small but neat, with flowers in the yards and swings on the porches. Everyone seemed happy here. Well, almost everyone. My name's Jake Carter, and I was just a regular guy who liked having fun. I'm 25 years old, but I still felt like a kid sometimes, especially when I was riding my brand new electric scooter. That scooter was my favorite thing. It was shiny and silver, and it zoomed along so fast it made the wind whip through my hair. I loved it. When I rode down the street, most people smiled at me. Old Mr. Thompson would wave from his rocking chair. Little Sarah, who lived next door, would clap her hands and yell, "Cool scooter, Jake." Even the mailman, Tom, gave me a thumbs up once. Riding that scooter made me feel free, like I could go anywhere. It wasn't loud like a motorcycle or anything. It was super quiet, just a little hum as I went. Most folks in Pinewood Grove liked seeing me zip by. Most folks, except one person. And oh boy, that one person was about to make my life a whole lot crazier than I ever expected. Her name was Karen Bradshaw. Everyone called her the Queen of the Homeowners Association, or HOA for short. The HOA was this group that made rules for our neighborhood, like no loud music after 8 p. or keep your grass short. Karen loved those rules more than anything. She was the boss of the HOA, and she acted like she owned the whole street. She was older than me, with short hair that was always perfect, and these sharp eyes that could spot trouble from a mile away. She carried a clipboard everywhere, like it was her best friend. On that clipboard she wrote down every little thing she didn't like, things she called rule breakers. And guess what? To her I was one of those rule breakers. See, Karen didn't like my scooter. Not one bit. Every time I rode by her house, she'd step out onto her porch and stare at me. Her stare wasn't nice. It was mean, like she was mad I even existed. She'd fold her arms and frown, her lips all tight, like she'd just eaten a sour lemon. Sometimes she'd mutter stuff under her breath, things like too much noise or that's a safety hazard. I didn't get it. My scooter was quiet, it didn't roar or rumble. And a hazard? It was just me riding along, not hurting anyone. But Karen didn't care about that. To her I was just some punk kid with a silly toy. She didn't even care that I was 25, a grown-up who paid my rent every month right on time. Nope, in her eyes I was trouble, and she was going to make sure I knew it. The first time she yelled at me, I was surprised. I was riding past her house, minding my own business, when she shouted, "Hey you, slow down." I stopped and looked at her, confused. "It's an electric scooter," I said. "It's not even fast enough to hurt a fly." She didn't listen. She just pointed at me with her pen and said, "You're breaking the rules, Jake Carter. I'll be watching you." Then she scribbled something on her clipboard and marched back inside. I stood there, scratching my head. Breaking the rules? What rules? I didn't even know what she meant. But that was just the start. After that, every time I rode my scooter, there she was, watching, glaring, muttering. It was like she had nothing better to do than spy on me. I tried to ignore her. I'd wave and smile, hoping she'd chill out. "Hey Karen," I'd say. "Nice day, huh?" But she'd just huff and turn away like I'd insulted her or something. Once I even asked her, "What's wrong with my scooter?" "It's not loud or anything." She snapped back, "It's not about noise, Jake. It's about order. This neighborhood has standards." Standards. I didn't even know what that meant. I just wanted to ride my scooter and have fun. But Karen, she wanted to control everything, and she thought I was messing up her perfect little world. At first I thought she was just grumpy. Maybe she didn't like young people. Maybe she didn't like scooters. Maybe she just woke up on the wrong side of the bed every day. I'd laugh about it with my friends sometimes. That Karen lady hates me, I'd say, and they'd giggle. She's probably mad her cat ran away or something. My buddy Mike joked. We didn't take it too seriously. I figured she'd get tired of glaring at me eventually and find something else to fuss about, like Mrs. Lopez's pink flamingo statue or Mr. Thompson's rusty old truck. Boy, was I wrong about that. Karen wasn't just grumpy. She was up to something way bigger than I could have guessed, and my scooter was about to turn her whole life upside down. Here's the thing, Karen didn't know it yet, but I wasn't the only one she should have been watching. Something wild was brewing in Pinewood Grove, and my little scooter ride was about to light the fuse. I didn't know it then, but that sunny Saturday was going to be the day everything changed for me, for Karen, for the whole neighborhood. What was coming? Oh, it was big. Bigger than a scooter. Bigger than Karen's clipboard. Bigger than anything I'd ever seen before. And the best part, I didn't even have to do much. All I had to do was keep riding and let the craziness unfold. Are you curious yet? Do you want to know what happened next? Trust me, you don't want to miss this. It's going to get so good, you'll be on the edge of your seat. Picture this, me, just a guy with a scooter, and Karen, the rule-loving queen, about to face something she never saw coming. What do you think it could be? Stick around, because this story's just getting started, and it's going to be a wild ride. One day I was riding my electric scooter down the street in Pinewood Grove. The sun was shining, and the wind was blowing through my hair. It felt awesome, like I was flying without wings. My scooter hummed quietly as I went, and I waved at little Sarah playing hopscotch on her driveway. Everything was perfect. I felt so free, like nothing could stop me. That is, until I heard a loud, angry voice cut through the air like a thunderclap. Stop right there. I slammed on the brakes and turned my head. There she was, Karen Bradshaw, the HOA queen herself. She came storming out of her house so fast, you'd think her porch was on fire. Her face was redder than a ripe tomato, and her eyes were wide and furious. She pointed at my scooter with a shaky finger, like it was some kind of scary monster about to eat the neighborhood. That thing is illegal, she shrieked, her voice so loud it made a dog down the street start barking. I've had enough of you, Jake Carter. I blinked at her, confused. Illegal? My scooter? I didn't get it. I took a deep breath and tried to stay calm, even though my heart was beating a little faster now. Karen, I said, keeping my voice nice and steady. It's electric. It's super quiet. It's not hurting anyone. I even gave her a little smile, hoping she'd relax. I mean, it was just a scooter. Kids rode bikes around here all the time. What was the big deal? But Karen, she didn't care what I said. Not one bit. She wasn't even listening. Her face got even redder, if that was possible, and she shook her head like I'd just said something crazy. Quiet or not, she snapped. It's dangerous. You're a menace, Jake. A menace. She kept yelling, her words flying at me like arrows. I just stood there, holding my scooter, trying to figure out why she was so mad. Dangerous. Me? I wasn't racing or crashing into anything. I was just riding along, minding my own business. Then, before I could say another word, Karen did something wild. She yanked her phone out of her pocket so fast it almost flew out of her hand. She held it up like a weapon, and started punching in numbers with her thumb. "That's it," she shouted. "I'm calling the cops." My jaw dropped. The cops? Over a scooter? I couldn't believe it. She put the phone to her ear and started talking. Well, more like screaming, right there in front of me. "Hello, 911. Yes, this is Karen Bradshaw from Pinewood Grove. There's a boy here with an illegal scooter. He's being reckless and putting the whole neighborhood in danger." I just stared at her, stunned. Reckless, danger. I looked down at my scooter. It was shiny and small, not some big scary machine. I wasn't speeding or doing tricks. I was just riding. Who calls the police over something like that? I wanted to laugh, but I didn't. Karen's face was too serious, too angry. She kept going, her voice getting louder with every word. "You need to send someone right now," she told the person on the phone. "This has gone on long enough." I scratched my head and waited. Part of me thought this was a joke. Maybe she was just trying to scare me. But nope, she was dead serious. She finished her call and shoved the phone back in her pocket, crossing her arms over her chest. Then she looked at me with this big smug smirk, like she'd just won a prize. "You'll see, Jake," she said, her voice all proud and mean. "Rules are rules. The police are coming, and they're going to take that stupid scooter away. Maybe they'll even arrest you." Arrest me? For riding a scooter? I almost laughed out loud, but I kept my mouth shut. Her smirk grew wider, and she stood there, tapping her foot on the sidewalk like she was the boss of everything. She acted like she owned the whole street, not just her house, but every blade of grass, every mailbox, every kid's tricycle. "I've been watching you," she added, narrowing her eyes. "You think you can do whatever you want, but not in my neighborhood." I didn't know what to say. I mean, what do you say to that? I just shrugged and said, "Okay, Karen, whatever you think." I wasn't scared, not really. I hadn't done anything wrong. But still, my stomach felt a little funny. What if the cops did show up? What if they believed her instead of me? I pushed that thought away and stood my ground, holding my scooter tight. Karen kept staring at me, her smirk stuck on her face like glue. She thought she'd won. She thought she had me trapped. "You're in big trouble now," she said, wagging her finger at me. "The police don't mess around with people like you. People like me." What did that even mean? I wasn't a criminal. I paid my rent. I said hi to my neighbors. I even picked up trash off the street sometimes. But to Karen, I was some bad guy, just because. The air felt heavy now, like a storm was coming. I could hear birds chirping in the trees, but they sounded far away. Karen's yelling had scared them off, I guess. I glanced around, wondering if anyone else was watching this. Were the neighbors peeking out their windows? Did they think I was trouble too? I didn't see anyone, but I felt eyes on me anyway. Karen's eyes mostly. They were burning holes right through me. I didn't know it yet, but that phone call she made, it was about to turn everything upside down. Not for me, but for her. Yep, you heard that right. Karen thought she was so smart, calling the cops like that. She thought she was going to teach me a lesson, but something big was coming, something she'd never see coming in a million years. Can you guess what it might be? I'll give you a tiny hint. The cops weren't going to be mad at me. Nope, they had their eyes on someone else. Karen stood there, all proud and bossy, waiting for her big win. I stood there too, quiet, just watching her. The wind picked up a little, blowing leaves across the street. It was still a nice day, but the tension between us made it feel different, like something was about to happen. Something wild, something that would make Karen wish she'd never picked up that phone. Want to know what's next? You've got to keep going with me.
This is where it starts getting really good. So there I was, standing on the street with my scooter, watching Karen yell into her phone like she was the star of some big drama show. She was going on and on about how I was a danger, and how the cops needed to hurry up and stop me. Her arms were flapping around like a bird trying to take off, and her voice was so loud, I bet the whole neighborhood could hear her. I just stayed quiet, holding my scooter, wondering how this was even happening. It was just a regular Saturday, until Karen decided to make it a circus. While she ranted, I noticed something strange out of the corner of my eye. A police car was parked a few houses down the street. It wasn't moving, and its lights were off. It was just sitting there, all quiet and still. Weird, right? I squinted to get a better look. The car looked normal, blue and white, with police written on the side, but it didn't seem like anyone was inside. I scratched my head. Maybe the cops were on a break, eating donuts or something. That's what they do in movies, isn't it? I didn't say anything about it though. I didn't want to give Karen more reasons to freak out. So I kept my mouth shut and let her keep waving her arms, acting like she was saving the world from my little electric scooter. Time went by, maybe a few minutes, but it felt way longer. Karen finally hung up her phone and shoved it back in her pocket. She turned to me with this big mean glare, like I'd just kicked her dog or something. "They're on their way," she said, her voice all sharp and nasty. "You're in for it now, Jake." She tapped her foot on the sidewalk, fast and loud, like she couldn't wait to see me in trouble. Her eyes were sparkling with excitement, like she thought the cops were her personal superheroes coming to rescue her from me and my evil scooter. I just stood there, trying not to roll my eyes. I mean, come on, it was a scooter, not a tank. But then something happened. I glanced back at that police car down the street, and I saw movement. 2 officers climbed out of it, one after the other. They were wearing dark uniforms with shiny badges, and they didn't look happy. My stomach did a little flip. Were they really here for me? Had Karen actually gotten me in trouble? The cops started walking toward us, their boots thumping on the pavement. I froze, gripping my scooter a little tighter. This was getting real now. Karen saw them too, and her face lit up like it was Christmas morning. Finally, she snapped, clapping her hands together. She spun around to face the cops, pointing at me like I was some criminal mastermind. "There he is," she shouted. "Arrest this troublemaker. He's breaking all the rules with that awful scooter." She sounded so proud, like she'd just solved a big mystery. I could feel my cheeks getting hot. Arrest me for riding a scooter? This was nuts. I opened my mouth to say something, but then I stopped. Because the cops, they didn't even look at me, not once. Their eyes were locked on Karen. Just her. The taller cop, a big guy with a serious face and a deep voice, stepped closer. He had a little notebook in his hand, and he flipped it open like he was checking something important. "Ma'am," he said, slow and steady, "are you Karen Bradshaw?" His words hung in the air, heavy like a storm cloud. I blinked. Wait, what? Why? Were they asking her that? I thought they were here for me. Karen didn't seem worried though. She puffed out her chest and nodded, all proud and smug. "Yes, I am," she said, like she was announcing she was the president or something. "I'm the one who called you about him." She jabbed her finger at me again, her smirk still plastered on her face. The tall cop didn't smile back. He just nodded once, real slow, and said, "Good. We need to talk." His voice was flat, like he wasn't impressed by her at all. The other cop, a shorter guy with sunglasses, stepped up too, and he was holding something in his hand. Maybe a piece of paper or a phone, I couldn't tell. They both stood there, staring at Karen, and I swear the air got colder all of a sudden. My brain was spinning. Talk? About what? Weren't they here to yell at me, or take my scooter away? What was going on? Karen's smirk started to slip, just a little at first, like she wasn't sure she'd heard right. Talk, she said, her voice getting squeaky. What do you mean talk? I called you. He's the problem. She pointed at me again, but her hand was shaking now. I could see it. Something wasn't right, and she was starting to feel it too. I didn't say a word, just watched, my heart thumping loud in my chest. The cops didn't move. They didn't even glance my way. It was like I wasn't even there. All their attention was on Karen, and she didn't like it one bit. I looked at the police car again. It was still parked there, quiet and empty now that the officers were out. Why had it been there in the first place? They hadn't just shown up when Karen called. They were already here. That's when a tiny thought popped into my head. Maybe they weren't here for me at all. Maybe something else was happening. Something bigger. I didn't know what yet, but I could feel it, like a secret waiting to spill out. Karen's foot stopped tapping. She crossed her arms tight over her chest, trying to look tough, but her face was changing. The red was fading, and now she looked pale, like she'd seen a ghost. What do you need to talk about? She asked, her voice smaller now. The tall cop tilted his head, like he was sizing her up. We'll get to that, he said. Just stay right there. Stay right there. That sounded serious. I swallowed hard. This was getting weirder by the second. I didn't know it yet, but those cops were about to drop a bombshell. A big, crazy surprise that would flip everything upside down. Karen thought she was in charge, calling 911 like a hero. But she had no idea what was coming her way. And me, I was just standing there, holding my scooter, about to watch it all unfold. Can you guess what's next? It's going to be wild, I promise. You've got to hear this next part. It's where things really start to heat up. The tall cop took a step closer to Karen, his boots making a loud thud on the sidewalk. He reached into his pocket and pulled out a little notepad, flipping it open with a flick of his wrist. His face was super serious, like he wasn't messing around at all. I stood there, holding my scooter, watching everything like it was a movie. Karen still had her arms crossed, glaring at me like I was the bad guy. But then the cop said something that made my heart skip a beat. Miss Bradshaw, he said, his voice deep and steady. We've been trying to reach you. Did you know there's a warrant out for your arrest? Karen's mouth fell open so wide, I thought her jaw might hit the ground. My mouth dropped too. I couldn't help it. A warrant for Karen. I blinked hard, trying to make sure I'd heard right. Karen's face went from pale to white, like all the color just ran away. A warrant, she squeaked, her voice high and shaky. That's ridiculous. I'm a law-abiding citizen. I don't break rules, I make them. She puffed out her chest, trying to look big and important, but her hands were trembling now. I could see them shaking, even from where I stood. The cop didn't move. He didn't even blink. He just stared at her, calm as could be, like he'd heard excuses a million times before. Ma'am, he said, tapping his notepad with his pen. We've got evidence you've been skimming money from the HOA funds, thousands of dollars. He paused, letting that sink in. Neighbors reported it, and we've been watching you for weeks. My head started spinning like a top. Skimming money. That meant stealing, right? Karen, stealing. I couldn't believe it. This was the same woman who walked around with her clipboard, yelling at people for tiny things, like leaving their trash cans out too long or parking their cars a little crooked. She'd fined Mr. Thompson $5 once just because his grass was half an inch too tall. And now the cop was saying she'd taken thousands of dollars from the HOA. My brain felt like it was doing flips. I looked at Karen, then at the cop, then back at Karen. This was wild. Karen's eyes got huge, like saucers. Evidence, she sputtered. That's a lie. I would never. I mean, I couldn't. She couldn't even finish her sentence. Her words tripped over each other, tumbling out in a big messy pile. She took a step back, almost tripping over her own feet. "This is a mistake," she shouted, waving her hands in the air. "A big stupid mistake. I'm the head of the HOA. I keep this neighborhood perfect." Her voice was loud, but it cracked at the end, like she wasn't so sure anymore. The second cop, the shorter one with sunglasses, stepped forward now. He'd been quiet this whole time, just watching, but now he reached behind his back and pulled out a pair of shiny silver handcuffs. They dangled from his hand, glinting in the sunlight. "You can explain it downtown," he said, his voice low and firm. "Let's go." He took a step toward her, and Karen froze like a deer caught in headlights. I couldn't believe what I was seeing. My jaw was still hanging open, and my hands were sweaty on my scooter's handlebars. Karen, the queen of rules, the lady who acted like she was better than everyone, had been stealing, and not just a little bit, thousands of dollars. All this time she'd been bossing us around, telling us what to do, fining us for dumb stuff, and she was the real troublemaker. My mind was racing, and here's the craziest part. She'd called 911 on me, thinking she'd get me in trouble when the cops were already here for her. Karen's face twisted up like she'd bitten into a sour lemon. "Downtown," she squeaked. "You can't take me anywhere. I'm not a criminal." She pointed at me again, her finger shaking so bad it looked like it might fall off. "He's the one you should arrest, him and that stupid scooter." But the cops didn't even glance my way. The tall one shook his head. "This isn't about him, Miss Bradshaw," he said. "It's about you. We've got proof, bank records, neighbor complaints, everything. You've been taking money that belongs to the HOA, and that's against the law." My scooter felt heavy in my hands now, but I didn't dare move. I just kept watching, my eyes bouncing between Karen and the cops. Karen's shoulders slumped a little, like the fight was starting to leak out of her. "Proof," she whispered, her voice tiny now. "What proof?" The tall cop flipped a page in his notepad. "Checks you wrote to yourself," he said. "Money that was supposed to fix the playground. You kept it. Money for new street signs. Gone. People noticed and they told us." I gasped out loud. I couldn't help it. The playground, that rickety old thing down the street with the broken slide. We'd all paid extra HOA fees last year to fix it, and nothing ever happened. Karen had said the repairs were delayed. She'd stolen the money. I remembered how mad everyone was about that. Little Sarah couldn't even play there anymore because it was falling apart, and Karen had the cash all along. Karen's hands flew to her face, covering her mouth. No, she cried. "You've got it all wrong." But the short cop with the handcuffs stepped closer, and she jumped back like he was a snake. "Turn around, ma'am," he said, calm but stern. "We're taking you in." Taking her in. That meant jail, right? My heart was pounding so hard I could feel it in my ears. This was real. This was happening. And me, I was just standing there totally forgotten. Karen had been so busy trying to get me in trouble that she didn't even notice the cops were after her the whole time. She'd called 911 thinking she'd win, but it was like she'd accidentally called her own doom. I almost laughed, but I didn't. It was too big, too crazy. The queen of rules, the lady who loved telling everyone what to do, had broken the biggest rule of all, stealing. Karen's eyes darted around, like she was looking for a way to run, but there was nowhere to go. The cops were right there and the street was quiet except for the sound of those handcuffs jingling. Her perfect little world was crashing down, and I got to watch it happen, all because of my scooter. Well, not really my scooter, but you know what I mean. She'd picked a fight with me, and now she was the one in trouble. Big trouble. Want to know what happened next? Oh, it's so good you've got to hear this. The cops grabbed Karen by the arms, one on each side, and started walking her toward their car. Her hands were stuck behind her back now, locked in those shiny handcuffs. She didn't look like the HOA queen anymore. She looked small and mad. As they pulled her along, she twisted her head around and shot me a dirty look, her eyes all squinty and mean. "This is your fault," she hissed, her voice sharp like a cat's claws. I just stood there holding my scooter and shrugged my shoulders. "Hey," I said with a little grin, "I'm just the guy with the scooter." Karen kept grumbling, but the cops didn't stop. They opened the back door of their car and helped her climb in. She didn't go quietly. She wiggled and complained the whole way, saying stuff like, "You'll regret this, and I'm innocent." But the tall cop just shut the door with a loud thunk, and that was that. I watched as the car's lights flashed on red and blue, spinning around, lighting up the street. The engine started with a rumble, and then they drove off, taking Karen away. I couldn't believe it. She was really gone. As the car disappeared around the corner, I noticed something. Faces started popping up in windows all over the neighborhood. Neighbors were peeking out, pulling back curtains and pressing their noses to the glass. I could hear whispers floating through the air, soft and excited. Little Sarah's mom stepped onto her porch, her mouth open like she'd just seen a ghost. Old Mr. Thompson leaned out his door, shaking his head. "What's going on?" I heard someone call, and then the truth started spilling out, like water from a tipped-over bucket. Turns out Karen had been sneaky for a long time. The cops had told us she'd been overcharging everyone on HOA fees, making us pay extra money every month. And where did that extra cash go? Not to fix the playground or buy new street signs like she'd promised. Nope. She'd been pocketing it, stuffing it right into her bank account. Hundreds, maybe thousands of dollars, all stolen from us. She thought she was untouchable, like no one would ever catch her. But the neighbors had noticed something fishy. They told the police, and the cops had been watching her, waiting for the right moment to grab her. And that moment, it was today, right when she tried to get me in trouble. I couldn't help but smile. Karen, the lady who loved rules, had broken the biggest one, don't steal. And now she was headed to jail where she couldn't boss anyone around anymore. I looked down at my scooter, all shiny and silver in the sunlight. It felt like my buddy now, like it had helped me win without even trying. I hopped back on, kicked off the ground, and started riding down the street. The wind hit my face cool and fresh, and I felt lighter than ever. No more Karen glaring at me, no more clipboard waving in my face, no more yelling about rules. The street was mine again, and it felt so good. I zoomed past Mr. Thompson's house, and he gave me a big wave. "Good riddance to her," he shouted, and I laughed. Sarah ran out to the sidewalk, clapping her hands. "You're the coolest, Jake," she yelled. I waved back, my grin so big it hurt my cheeks. Justice. Oh, it was served all right, served up hot and perfect, like a pizza fresh from the oven. And the best part, I didn't even have to lift a finger. Karen's own mean plan had backfired, and now she was the one in trouble, not me.